Kimberly here. This is Macabish, Cults, Classics, and Horrors. We're talking films, series, books, and life, and we're starting right now. See more movies, like a lot more, and then come back.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi there. I'm doing great.
Director of The Mean One and the future Screamboat.
Your credits are long, man. They go all the way back to 2012 or something like that?
Yes, I've done. I've been working for a minute. There was a time when I couldn't speak, so I think at that point I definitely wasn't sure about what I wanted to do. But I've basically been making movies since I was like 8 or 9. I started with stop motion movies with
Nice.
with Legos and taking little pictures and stuff. And when you're a kid with no siblings, you have the time to sort of make friends with your toys. So I started making movies then and experimenting with a single frame animation and just trying to figure out how to do some of these effects in camera because we weren't really. So I wanted to break glass one frame at a time. I was tearing up little pieces of tinfoil and doing my own sound effects with my mouth and stuff, and just kind of working my way through to it. And then, I moved to live action when I was, I think, 12 or 13, and I was doing little special effects tests. And then, the special effects tests just got longer and longer and started having a story and actors, and it wasn't just lightsabers moving around frame by frame. It was, actually a narrative. And once I got to high school, then I started doing skits at the school TV station. And that's really where I sort of found my love for storytelling and entertaining and making people laugh. And it's actually where I met the producers of Terrifier, who I now get to work with on Screamboat.
That's awesome. You really have been making movies your whole life.
That's right. That's right. I had a moment. This is a true story. I'll never forget this. I'm very fortunate. I had a moment when I don't remember how old I was, but I had written a script and I had given it to my cousin, and he had 4 friends, and they were all like in the community theater show or something. I must have been 12 or 13 years old, and seeing them standing there in the costume that I made and, wearing makeup that was very specific to the character and saying the words that they had memorized that I had written. It was like the clouds opened up and it was like, oh, this is it. This is going to be it for you forever. And I remember that moment so distinctly, standing in a field in New Jersey. And I've never looked back.
That's amazing. Did you go to film school?
I did. I did go to film school. I went to NYU Tisch. I knew for sure that I was going to be doing movies and going to a film school. And I thought, I'm from New York originally. I thought, I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to, sort of go that route. And I ended up staying in my own backyard and making New York City movies. And I really enjoyed it. I loved it. One of the benefits, I think, of going to film school is you meet other people who are, at the same spot that you are, and you have a chance to sort of experiment before there's a client or a studio or other producers, and sort of figure out your voice and meet other people who are also, at that part in their journey, and you're all experimenting and figuring it out together, and you have access to a free labor pool, which is which is helpful when you're trying to do ambitious things. Yes. Well, I was, lying about my age and directing music videos as early as 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was in college, in between classes and in between semesters, because I still lived in New York, everyone went back home for the summer, for the holidays, and I would stay and just, pretend like I was new and I was my own agent and running around and seeking gigs.
Awesome.
And then, there was literally a point when I directed some music videos for a big label, and the artist would invite me out and be like, "Hey, do you want to, that's a wrap. Let's go to the wrap party." And like, I'm literally not old enough to go to get into the club or the wrap party. I'm like, no, I have to go work on the edit. The label's being really annoying. And they're like, yeah, no, we get it. I lived in LA, in New York for about a year before I moved to Los Angeles after graduation, and haven't looked back. I've been here for, goodness, 12 years.
Cool.
And it looks like you've been working hard since you got there? Because we're seeing, usually we have guests here, and we've had one person, the longest it took for somebody to make a movie was 12 years, but in general, 3 years. But we've noticed some overlaps with some of yours, and we just want to know how.
Well, I mean, I don't sleep all that much, so that's a start. um, it's definitely helps to be a night owl, and yeah, I never really got off New York City time, so I tend
Oh.
to get up really early, and then LA wakes up, and I start my LA day, and then I kind of keep going. But I'm very fortunate that I've been able to collaborate with some really awesome people, and when you're a small one man band, you kind of find yourself doing a lot, and it's harder to like finish things and get them out. But when you get people you can trust, then you have the ability to sort of jump from project to project and do a little of this and do a little of that while things are getting finished. But the upside to being a one man band, if there's like a huge problem in post production or we need to go back and reshoot something, being a technically familiar person, I can, if I have to shoot a little thing or I have to cut a little thing or they have some kind of post issue, I can kind of resolve it at 3 o'clock in the morning and send it away, and we don't skip a beat. Because a lot of movie making is creative and a lot of it is work and a lot of it's endurance. You just have to, not let a project shrivel up and die because it's been 2 years and you're bored.
Right.
So that is also part of it.
I hear that. Now I have a question about the mean one. Did you make that because you wanted to make a Christmas horror movie, or because you wanted to make a slasher movie?
I've always wanted to make a horror movie around this source material. It's one of those ideas that I've had for easily 6 or 7 years, because whenever you go and you pitch something, you always have to have like 3 ideas, right? You have the thing you're trying to pitch, you have like a backup just in case they're like, we have that, give me something completely different. And then, you always have to fill that list out with a third thing. So I always just pitch this crazy third thing based around this popular IP that is, sort of a off the wall idea. So I've been pitching this idea around for years. It's always like, we need a third thing. Put that slide about the mean one in there. So this is an idea I've had for a long time, and they're always like, "You're crazy. You're not going to be able to do that." And I'm like, "I know. That's why it's number 3. We really makes that first idea sound good, right?" So it was never really supposed to be a real thing. And then I had a project fall through in December of 2021. So I had a crew booked, which is a lot of my friends and people I collaborate with all the time. And so I had a crew booked, and I had some time and a weekend, and I was like, let's just shoot like a fake trailer. Like, I mean, really, what do I have? I have like 4 minutes worth of good jokes. So let's just do like a trailer format for this proof of concept to prove nothing, because we'll never make this movie. And I can get it out of my system and move on to, pitching a movie with a celebrity that's already dead, because we'll never be able to make that, I thought. Just goes to show you I've been wrong in many ways, many times. And so we make this fake trailer, and I start showing it around town and just like texting it to my friends who are like producers and stuff. And they're like, this is wild. When, where are you in post? When are you going to finish the movie? And I was like, I mean, no, there's no movie. It's just this. And they're like, but I mean, you have the trailer. I'm like, there's no other footage. That is all the footage. There is no movie. And they're like, you sure? And I said, well, I mean, there could be a movie. And then we we scrambled and we put a script together and expanded the 4 minutes of jokes into 90 minutes of jokes. And we shot it in the following April, May. And then we were editing and finished the movie in October. And then it went out to the world in December.
I cannot believe this, because let me just tell you something. I love this movie so much. The narrator was perfect. Every instance of not saying the word, perfect. I died laughing every single time. I can't believe you just said you scrambled. You threw it together after making a trailer. That is amazing.
Thank you.
It is so good. Oh my gosh.
I appreciate that so much. I mean, it was not an easy scramble. I'll give you that. I mean, there's a lot of late nights and hard work. But I also think there's a freeness to creating something you don't think anyone's ever going to see. For obvious reasons, this idea was always sort of edgy, where are you going to release this? Who's going to see it? Will anyone let you put it out into the world? And so, we kind of just moved forward. And if this was a web video, or because the aesthetic of it is definitely like that of a web video. So if this is like an extra long TikTok, or, just a long SNL sketch, just sort of treating it like that. And what do we think is funny? And what do we think, people are going to dig and works for this? And so we didn't overthink it too much. We kind of just went into it and made it and tweaked it and tinkered with it until it had to be delivered, because Christmas movies have to be delivered early. We don't give them to the theater in December. We have to turn them over kind of early. So we just sort of put this thing on there. We said, let's make it small and fast and cheap. And, the rest, as they say, is history.
Are you going to make another one? I just want to know. Is there a possibility? Maybe.
I think there's a possibility in the sense that I do have a story, if we were to do a sequel, for sure, that I don't want to say I pitched it, but I pitched it to the writers and a couple of people that worked on the movie. And they're like, that movie, the sequel you'd go to jail for the sequel for sure. Like that'd be the last movie you ever made. And I was like, all right, well, we'll put that one on ice for now. And maybe we'll just, maybe we'll go do something Disney perhaps. And that's what brought us over to Screamboat. So it's, there's an idea there, is what I'll say. But we have to see where things go.
Okay. Well, I guess I can console myself with the fact that you guys are making a documentary about it.
That's right. Well, the documentary is actually out now.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, Christmas Chaos is what it's called. It's available on the collector's edition Blu-ray of the movie, which you can get on Amazon or buy on the shelves at Walmart if it's not sold out, because I know it's sold out in a bunch of places. But I believe the documentary will be streaming later this year. And it's very low tech. It's all of the our cell phone footage, our little vlogs that we took, all of the like crazy, weird behind the scenes of, me and my 10 friends running around some strange mountain town in California and, making this crazy movie, up through releasing it and, getting it out to the world and the reaction. It's pretty wild to think all that stuff happened in just 1 year.
There's something about the fact that it Hallmark holiday movie, and then you see him come and it is suddenly point of view, shaky cam, madness, and then it eases back into Hallmark holiday movie. The whole movie's an Easter egg. I love it.
Thank you. That was the point. I mean, I think that, I'm a big horror fan, and I really appreciate you saying that, because we set out to make something that was something I don't love about some Christmas horror movies is their horror and Christmas is like the backdrop. Whereas I really wanted to make a movie that felt like a Christmas movie, that was like Christmas music and twinkling lights and a love story, and something that would be fun, to rewatch. Obviously, Die Hard and Home Alone are Christmas movies for sure. And they're still fun. You can watch them every year, because you're not like, man, I want a bummer of a Christmas movie. No, you want a Christmas movie that leaves you feeling good and uplifts you. And that means it's going to have to be a little silly and maybe just a little sappy and maybe a little stupid. And that's what we set out to do. And I think that's why people responded to it, because it's not how messed up can we make our Christmas. It's like, oh, it ends with a kiss. Okay, I guess it's still technically a horror movie, but Hallmark horror is its own thing for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Candy cane guns, man. I was like, this is. Let me call somebody, because that's what I do. I get all excited and I start calling everybody I know. You got to see this movie.
I appreciate that. I love that. Yeah, the more people you could tell to go see it, the better it is for everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because we want to see more, unhinged horror is what I like to call it. I mean, the more movies that are sort of out there and wild, and that's really our brand. I mean, Screamboat is definitely horror, like it's bloody, but it's definitely a comedy. It's jokes and one-liners and Easter eggs, and that is very much the kind of horror movie we want to make. And more importantly, we want to tell people that that's what we're making. Because if you come to, The Mean One, for example, expecting a, diet Terrifier, you're gonna be disappointed, because that's not the movie we made. We made something fun and silly and light and low budge, and just making sure people know if you're into that sort of thing, then this is the movie for you.
Absolutely. Now, Screamboat, Why did you want to make that one?
That's a great question. I have, well, like I said, I'm from New York City. So I'm from Staten Island originally. And I've always wanted to make a horror movie on the Staten Island Ferry. It's, I don't know if either of you have ever taken the Staten Island Ferry. It's a 30-minute commuter boat, runs 24/7. And, it's got amazing views of Manhattan. You can see the Statue of Liberty. You can see Ellis Island. You can see the skyline. And when I'm commuting back and forth to college as a 20 something, I was always thinking, sometimes you have the early morning commuters, but the boat totally changes at night. During the day it becomes tourists taking pictures and stuff, and then at night it just turns into this wild, unhinged, chaotic ship ride. Because you have commuters who are working late, you have construction workers who are just starting their day, you have people who are partying in the city who are coming home drunk and carousing, and they're all crammed on this tiny little boat because at night there's less people, so they use a much smaller boat. And you're never more than like 10 feet away from the craziest crazy person. And I'm like, this is your horror movie right here.
Right.
Because once the boat takes off, where are you going to go? I mean, on the Orient Express, they could just get off the train, like just stop the train and get off. You can't just get off a boat when it's halfway to the destination. The cell phone service kicks out, and all of a sudden, it's just you and them. And once I knew that Steamboat Willie was going to go into the public domain, I'm like, there's your monster. Your monster is Steamboat Willie, because I love adapting characters, especially things you have a nostalgia and a connection to, and turning them, sort of on their side, turning them on their head, and presenting them in a different way. And I thought, well, how do you do a Steamboat Willie movie? Oh, I can finally do my Staten Island Ferry horror movie, and I put them together, and you have Steamboat Willie, who is very much a tiny murder mouse on a boat, which used to be a steamship, the Staten Island Ferry, with this awesome backdrop of New York City and New York City residents. So it's like all of my favorite things together in one big loud horror comedy.
Didn't you have nightmares about like filming a movie like that in like the water and like on a boat, and especially on a small boat?
Yes, definitely. Well, when I say small, I mean that, the small boat compared to the big boats. I mean, the smallest Staten Island Ferry, I think, seats 1,500. So it's still big, still 2 or 3 decks. Some of them could hold, 20 cars or something. The big ones can seat more, 3,000, 4,000 people. Wow. It's a production nightmare. I mean, there's would be what I would say if we didn't have a really good plan and an awesome team. I mean, there are a million obvious issues with shooting any movie on a boat, and then just add to it the blood, the puppet, the movement, the windows, the nauticalness of it all. I mean, there's just a million obvious reasons why you never make a boat movie. But that's part of the fun of it. Something I really enjoy. I enjoy creative problem solving, and I love the idea that JFK once said, we're not going to go to the paraphrasing. So we're not going to go to the moon because it's easy. We're going to the moon because it's hard. And there's something about people saying, what about the sound? What about the water? What about the blood? What about the? And I'm like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And then when it's done, you see it in the movie, and no one ever remembers that. Oh my God, we could have drowned. Nobody ever remembers the cold nights or the hanging off the side of the boat with wires or any of that. Were we supposed to go on the roof? Probably not. Were we supposed to breathe engine fuel down in the engine room? Definitely not. But we did it, and now oh, look, we have it. Great.
Awesome.
And then afterwards, everyone, they call you crazy when you're starting, and then they say it's obvious when you're done. They're like, oh yeah, of course you went into the engine room. I'm like, you said we were going to die from inhaling fumes. Like, I can't remember how to do fractions anymore. I was down there for just a little too long. And now you're like, oh yeah, of course you were in the engine room.
Wow.
But it was fun. It was really cool. And, sometimes you have to get collaborators that are crazy enough to, let's just figure it out. Let's see what we can do. And, partnering with a lot of the crew from Terrifier, and, a lot of the crew who helped us design and build the creature, and our water safety guys and our stunt team and our pyro team, like all of these people who were like, I mean, I don't know if you can do that on a boat. And we're like, oh, well, let's figure it out. Like, let's test it out. Let's just see. And we're just small and scrappy enough that we can do little experiments and sort of get back to the down and dirty way that movies were made. back before you could just, an executive in a studio somewhere could tap in on his laptop and be like, why are you doing it like that? I mean, you used to get a script and go off to some foreign place and shoot a movie and come back and be like, it's done. And at that point, it didn't matter how you made it because they just have the footage. And I think not being micromanaged or questioned by some big studio somewhere definitely gave us the ability to be a little bit more spontaneous and take some chances that really look great on the screen.
Nice.
It's awesome. I'm looking at the pictures from that rat. Looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Thank you. That's my
I'm so
little buddy.
excited to see that. Oh my God. When is it coming out?
The movie will be out in April. We're and in the meantime, we're doing fan screenings all around the country. So we're going to horror conventions, and we're going to other conventions, and sort of doing these pop-up events where we're letting fans see the movie early, and get the word out and get excited about the film. And it's just so great. I mean, it's obviously we can't be everywhere when the movie screens, and getting to go on a tour and a road show with the movie and sit with audiences and talk to them about it after and see them reacting to it for the first time. I mean, our trailer is around. It played with Terrifier, it played with Peter Pan, it played with The Substance. So people have seen the trailer, but we haven't even released it publicly online. So people really don't know what they're going to get when they come to see it. And being in the room with them while the mouse is killing and when some of our more outrageous scenes are happening is it's just a blast. It's such a good time.
And did I hear you mention puppet? Like you guys use puppets on it?
We did, yes. There is pretty much every trick in the book to bring our Screamboat Willie to life is used on this film. So we have old school puppets that we use to stand in for David Howard Thornton, who plays Screamboat Willie. We have, there's a version of him that's wearing a suit that we filmed in a soundstage and that we filmed on the actual boat itself. We're using wires, we're using LED walls, we're using green screen, miniatures and models and water tanks and like everything that you could possibly do to pull this movie off at an independent level. We did, and the puppet work was great. The puppet is so fun because they have to watch David's rehearsal footage to sort of get a sense of how he performs to try to match it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've done a lot of visual effects heavy shows for sure, and there's just something about a real creature, both for the actors and for the audience, that they just connect to, right? I mean, there's something about Elmo and Kermit the Frog and any of the amazing creatures in the Star Wars universe. Like, there's something about that where you can like look it in the eyes, and there's a puppeteer back there, but it doesn't matter. Like, there's just something about he's really there.
Yeah.
That there's literal life. I mean, a puppet has a pulse. It may be the puppeteers, but like it's alive, and there's something about the performance of a puppet when it moves and it emotes, and you're like, hey, if you twist your wrist like this, his ears will move like that, and oh wow, he looks alive. And that's like a magic trick in and of itself. And then having it look like David, and having David's performance be so expressive and just so fun to watch. Not just the way he moves his body, but the way he moves his face. He obviously has a lot of experience. He's Art the Clown of working through makeup. And this was no exception. He's wearing a lot of prosthetics, giant ears, fake nose. I mean, all of this contacts, all this crazy stuff. And he's so, he's sitting there sweating, right, in this massive creature suit. And then I call action, and it's not a guy in a suit. It's a little murder mouse. He's alive, and he's moving, and he's dancing, and he's, there's no like cables and wires that we use to manipulate his eyebrows or, robotic mechanics we use to move his nose. That's all David, and it's awesome.
Will you be doing any more, do you think, if you have the opportunity to, public domain character horror?
I'm open to it for sure. I mean, I definitely enjoy doing this. I mean, there's something fun about taking a character people know that they love, that they already have nostalgia for, and presenting it in a new way. Something like Steamboat Willie or Mickey Mouse or, any of these characters, you have an attachment to them, but they're not really presented for you anymore, right? Of course, there's Disney adults, and, of course, you go see a show with Mickey Mouse. You're excited to see him there, but he's not really geared towards you anymore. And so I think there's something really fun about, dusting off something that you loved 10, 20, 30 years ago when you were, just a kid, and being able to re-engage with it. Well, now I like horror movies. Now I don't watch so many animated films, and I don't have whatever channel this show is on. But I do like horror movies. So what if I could see this character again in a new light? And so the character has to be right if I was to do that again. But I'd be much more inclined to continue the story of Screamboat and maybe go back to that world. But as far as other public domain characters, I haven't given it much thought. This one's really special to me, and I don't know if I could do another one because they don't get better than Mickey Mouse.
True. We're very excited about all the public domain horrors. Well, not all of us. There's plenty of people that hate it very much, but those of us who are into it are really into it. So we'll be really excited to see this one for sure.
Thank you. Look, I think it's a cool opportunity too, because there is, first of all, you can't ruin someone's childhood because it's in the past.
Right.
So, I think anyone that makes that claim it's a bad faith argument. But I also think there's an element of this where we as independent creators need to do whatever we can to stand out, right? And short of breaking laws and, hurting people or putting toxicity into the world, I think whatever competitive edge you can take to stand out, to find an audience, to connect with people who are looking for something different, you need. So you could make a new monster that no one's ever heard of, kills people on the Staten Island Ferry. And I'm sure that movie would be rad, but we're getting attention because it's this familiar character. So if we can't compete with the big studios that are using this really familiar IP and they're taking up the theaters and they're buying up the billboards and I saw a banana with the Avengers on it and I was like, what? If you haven't heard of the Avengers by now, the banana with the sticker not going to be the thing that gets you to go see the movie or buy this banana. What are you doing?
Right.
We don't have those resources. We just can't spend on marketing like they can. But we do have the power of, the internet and going viral and, creating these buzzy titles. And I think people are ready for something different. They want fresh content that sort of reflects the things that they like. And it's a global marketplace. We can post a trailer and anyone can see it anywhere as long as, their parental controls are set a certain way.
Right.
And, I think it's a great opportunity for independent artists to capture the public attention and try to compete because we can't outspend the studios. So we have to do something else. And I think it's a great way to tap into the collective desire for something different. It's not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. But it's really, really cool to see just how far and wide these public domain movies can go, and to see that people are enjoying them because we do it to make people smile, and I think that only works if people actually see it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about making sure these characters, this art doesn't die. So whatever you have to do to bring it back is worth doing. Because they've been alive for a long time. But if nobody's seen them since the 1920s or whatever, nobody's going to look at old cartoons like that again. So
yeah, it's not like Disney's in a rush
it.
to make a Steamboat Willie like new movie or whatever, right?
Right.
So like you're bringing Steamboat Willie to a new generation,
and that's definitely worth it.
And also like it's just another iteration, right?
Right.
You have the Beauty and the Beast, the story, and then you have the animated movie, and then you have the musical version, and then you have the sequel, and then you have the T-shirt and the lunchbox, and maybe there's a show. So I think it's just it's just another medium to experience this. And sometimes these mashups are the thing that makes something really, really fun. You hear these two songs of no business being together, and you hear the match together, and you're like, oh man, that is not better. Now it's its own thing, and it's something else to be enjoyed. And why not? They're like you said, they're not going into the public domain because someone filed the paperwork wrong. It's been almost 100 years. Like at this point, like we can do something new with it.
Right. And we should.
And there's some cool ones coming up too, for sure. I think in the next 10 years, we're going to start seeing like big superheroes, and we're going to start seeing lots of really interesting characters. And who knows what people are going to do with them? But it's a very exciting time.
And like you said, it's nice to give a lot more independent voices a louder voice, because like now you get attention for Steamboat Willie, and now you have the attention of that audience. When you bring your original stuff, they're more inclined to watch it, right? So a lot of people that didn't have the advantage of all the money behind the studios can now be seen by the masses by having the recognition from the other stuff, right?
That's right. Well, and also it's a good proving ground, right? So if you can say, by having, because I remember there was a time, I mean, I started making fan films when I was like 19 or something like that. And they were like, why are you making these shows, these videos? Because you can't sell them. You might get sued. And I was like,
Right.
the point is not to make money on this thing. The point is to show if I had my shot at this character or this idea or whatever, here's a version of what I would do with it. And obviously, you're making a short film in your backyard. You don't have a huge studio budget, but at least people can see, oh, here's what the tone might be, or here's what the casting might be, or here's my out there idea for the costume. So I do think there's also an element where if you take something familiar and reimagine it, it's as much a showpiece for you as it is a showpiece for the thing that you've modified or changed or reinterpreted. So I think it's cool. And back then, you were like, okay, well, you can post it online, but no one will ever see it. And they're like, yes, but they might see it if it's Superman. They might be
Yeah.
searching for it. And if it's science fiction movie number 1,088,000, very different than, oh, it's a Star Wars movie. People are
Yeah.
more likely to stumble onto it and see it. Maybe you garner a fan, maybe you meet a connection or a collaborator. And, I think as long as you're not breaking any laws, like I said, because we are very cautious about not breaking laws, as
Right.
long as you're willing to more or less play by the rules, I think it's just a great opportunity, and we need more original voices, underrepresented voices, people that have a great idea but maybe don't live near one of the major film hubs, or even near a major city. Like it's a great time. There's more content than ever, it's a good thing because great, you can discover something. It's a bad thing because it's harder to find it because the pile is bigger. But
Right.
it's just a really cool thing, and it creates a lot of opportunities for new voices to come and make something new, maybe something more reflective of audiences now, or maybe serving an audience that feels underserved, with a
Hmm.
creator that, I don't know, there's a lot of other people from Staten Island who rode the ferry every day who could make this movie. I mean, that's a very, very specific movie. You don't have to get it to enjoy the movie, but not a lot of people could have created that. And the hope is like we're showing you a window into something you might not be familiar with, and hopefully you have fun with it too.
And on that note, our Carlos here, he is a new filmmaker. And I wonder if you have any words of wisdom that would help them at all.
Yes. Something I tell people um, is that people ask of like, oh man, some of the projects we're doing, how are they able to get so far? Because I like to remind people we are an independent film. We don't have major studio backing. If anything, they might be out to get us. Uh, so, all of the awesome opportunities we've had, and the cool things we've been able to do is because of the power of the idea, right? The idea is so interesting that it can't help but quote unquote, go viral, or get attention, or, just get people talking. And I think if you're just starting out, something that I would encourage anybody to do at any point in their filmmaking journey is to make something that's a good idea. Something you can make something that's been made before, and the execution is what matters. But I really think if you have something totally original and really fresh, that's the best way you can stand out from the crowd. I think if you try it, fail cheaply, fail often and fail cheaply is what I tell people. Like, go shoot your thing, take your phone, shoot your thing. If it doesn't work, shoot it again because you spent nothing on it, and find that thing that really like only you can tell, and you'll be able to make something original. And the thing that's original and that stands out will stand on its own. And that's, I think, the best way to advance, your career and your craft is like make things only you can make. And if you have a good idea, there will be interest in it. And I think that it shows when you put something out there and people connect to it. They're like, oh, this is so fresh. And you're like, I didn't know anyone else wanted this. And you're like, yes, sometimes people don't know what they want until they've seen it. It's a Steve Jobs thing, a Steve Jobs quote. And it's always sort of stayed with me of like, I don't know, I have this weird idea. I think we should just try it out. And then people see it and they're like, oh, how come no one made this yet? It's like, well, I thought it was a good idea. So everyone said I was crazy. And now here we are. So I think anybody that's aspiring and up and coming, I'd say get out there and do it, and know that the idea, your idea, that thing you have that nobody else has, is your most valuable asset, and don't undervalue it, because that's going to be the thing that gets you where you want to go. Check out the Mean One, as you can watch it on Stars. You can rent it on all the usual platforms: Amazon, Walmart, Vudu, smart TV, smartphones. You can get the new collector's edition on Blu-ray, which is available again at all the usual stores: Amazon, Target, Walmart, all those spots. And be sure to follow Screamboat on social media at Screamboat Movie. You can follow me at Stephen LaMorte for all the up-to-date info about the movie when it comes out, and see it in theaters.
Well, I'm curious, is there going to be a 4K for the Mean One, or?
I don't know if they're going to do a 4K, because the collector's edition steelbook is
Blu-ray,
is like the definitive edition, because it has the documentary, because it has the commentary, because it's got the deleted scenes. So, and the movie was never made to be shown in theaters, certainly never made to be played in 4K. So I would be really curious as to what a 4K version of this would be even more unflattering to me in my early filmmaking days. So I'm not sure that I would be in love with that idea. But the steelbook is definitely, like, if you want to watch it, that's the best way to see it now. And if for nothing else, because it's the same movie, of course, but it looks even better than it did in the theaters. And it has if you saw it in theaters versus seeing it on this, it's has some of the rough edges sort of smoothed out a little bit to be truer to what I intended, what I was able to do in 8 months versus 9.5 months. But then it also has that documentary, which is really fun, because we take you that whole story I told you. We take you through the whole thing, from the teaser trailer to the to being in theaters and going around the world and all that good stuff. It's a really fun watch. It's got the same narrator as the movie, and it's in the style of the movies that made us. If you've ever seen that Netflix show, so it's a really fun watch. It's really cheeky, because it's got the silly narration, it's got the rhyming, it's got all that good stuff. And
I love it.
People are like, I knew it was indie. I didn't realize it was that indie. And you could just see like us in these just like bizarre locations with 5 people spraying blood in a backyard with fake snow. It's crazy. It's crazy.
We love indie over here. We love all that stuff. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. You have to do it. I mean, and the funny thing is there was a time when this was how you made movies. You would get a script. It would say there's a giant monkey climbing up a building, and they'd be like, we know anybody who knows how to do that? Does anybody want to figure that out? And then they'd call one of like 3 people, and they just tinker around with KY jelly and cables until they got something that worked. And you see it. And now we have these big companies and HR departments and, research and development and all this crazy stuff. And it's like, there was a time when a bunch of cigarette smoking 24-year-olds were just like in a studio somewhere playing with projectors and mirrors to see if they could make the thing happen next week. So I think there's an indie element now where if you're willing to experiment, you have a little bit of know-how, and you want to go on YouTube, you can just figure stuff out and make things work really well. We have a gag in Screamboat, really, really simple, where like a bullet hits an oil tank and oil spills out of the tank. So we couldn't afford to do like a pyro gag or build our own oil tank. We're like, let's use the real one that's in the space, like this fuel thing. And we'll use visual effects to add in the oil pouring out. And we tried like 8 different ways to do it. And the movie was due in like a week. And I said, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to the dollar store, and we're going to get green paper and the worst chocolate syrup imaginable, just the cheapest, most garbagey, like filled with whatever chemical, like barely qualifies as food, chocolate syrup. And we went in the bathtub. I set up my camera, and I just filmed an element of squirting black, inky, gross corn syrup laden chocolate syrup style goo onto this green paper. And now the shot is 100% believable. And I'm like, there's nothing glamorous about this, but this is the way we used to do it. This doesn't get more indie than spraying chocolate syrup around your bathtub.
Yeah, I love
And the
that.
shots in the movie, it works great. It looks really well. And like, yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to just not be afraid to get your hands dirty and do it. And that's the perk of the digital technology and YouTube is like, if that's what, that's how it has to be done. Like sometimes you're like, okay, let's just keep shooting it until we figure it out. I mean, the Terrifier guys, when they shoot those gore gags, they'll reshoot, and we did it in our show too. They'll reshoot a blood gag 2 or 3 times. All of our kills were shot 3 times over.
Oh, okay.
We'd shoot it once because it's a 1 location movie. So we had the benefit of going back. We'd shoot it once, we'd do a cut. We'd be like, this doesn't quite work, or this could be better. So then we'd shoot it again. And then, well, now it made that other thing look not so good. So now let's shoot this part again. And that's how you end up with something and it fits together perfectly. And, you're using footage from all of those days. So it's not wasted work. But, you're just trying to solve these little problems and really bring these unrealistic things to life in a specific, fun way. Sometimes you just got to not be afraid to get your hands dirty and don't give up.
Come on, April.
That's right. It's coming. Or if you make it to a fan screening, they're open to the public. So,
awesome.
Check our, so you can, check our social media, or you have the perk of it. You can ask me directly. And I can let you know we're going to be in Florida. We're going to Atlanta. I think we're going to Chicago. We'll definitely be in New York and Los Angeles. So we're going to be all over if you want to see it early. Thank you so much for having me. And don't forget to check out Screamboat when it comes out in April.
Absolutely.
Buy 5 tickets, buy 10 tickets, get yourself a whole row. Bring your friends, bring your enemies.
That's right.
Bring your long lost love. I mean, it's just I would prefer if the rooms were filled, but if we could just sell the tickets, that's fine too. That still works because we're as an independent film, nothing is guaranteed, and we're fighting for space, both literally and figuratively in this industry. And when it comes to putting the movie in theaters, our ability to stay in theaters, to let more people see it, to let word of mouth build, comes completely from people going to see it. So, I mean, there's definitely going to see it the first week. And if you like it, telling people that you dig it goes a really long way, because some people can't make it out the first weekend, and they don't always know that if we don't do really amazingly well the first week, we might not get the second week. And then you have to wait to see it on streaming. And, we shot on this amazing camera, and we have these beautiful ship shots and all this like crazy stuff. You want to see that tiny mouse on the big screen. And if we get bumped out too quick, then people won't have that chance. So we're hoping people get out and see it early. This way we get to stay in the theater as long as possible. I appreciate it. Thank you both for having me. This was such an awesome interview. And I'll be sure once you've seen the movie, if you want to do a follow-up, I can give you all the secret details of how we did all the crazy stuff and what might be in store for the future of Screamboat.
Yeah, we'd love for you to come back. That would be amazing. This is the #1 place for macabrish cults, classics, and horrors. For synopsis, reviews, and news, go to macabrish.com. Thank you for listening. Signing out until the next one.